Well, lads, there's something about Russian dancing that we don't often hear about. It's the authentic feeling of a community, perhaps, or the rhythmic movements by which we connect to our fellow villagers. There's another aspect. It's a piece of lost history, right, that deserves to be talked about. The reason why I'm talking about Russian dancing, not only because I'm Russian, but also because, it seems very unique to me in its nature. It's almost like has a soul. It's almost like it has a soul of its own. The way they move, the way the people interact with each other. It all comes together in this preeminent spectacle. It's so simple, yet so brilliant and fun, so brutal, but it's also so harmonious. It's just interesting to me, the fact that I am Russian living in Ireland, really made me want to talk about it. Because to me, true Russian dancing is something that's been lost to history a long time ago. Because the peasants weren't really known for their bookkeeping records or their writing and reading abilities. So the Soviet Union completely shattered that, put the last nail into it by during the everyone else-anization, tried to do a bit of Russification, but instead of embracing our culture, they gave us other things from different cultures that aren't ours. In other words, stole them. Stole nesting dolls from Japan, called them matryoshkas. Stole the Georgian dance and called it berezka. Stole the fucking water in the Urals from Kazakhstan. That's a different story. And most importantly, stole the Ukrainian hopak. And what did we end up with? This conglomeration of weirds. I can't even describe it. But true Russian dancing, where does it come from? Well, it started off as, during Ivan the Great's time, he had many jesters, right, that he'd have roaming around in his oddly short palaces, right, and, they'd be doing all kinds of dancing, jumping around, unlike the Ukrainian Cossacks who were, used the dance as a training exercise, Russian jesters were already from the get-go using it as entertainment purposes, right? And then it evolved to different villages. Russians, they adapted the accordion from the Germans, right? Made their own versions of it, and thus creating a new hybrid genre of this jester-based dancing with accordion playing in the background, while with supporting dancers and ditties, otherwise known in Russian as chastushki. These ditties, right, are like little songs about what, the peasants were doing, daily life, activities, things like that happened, so people can bond with each other and have a laugh about it, during a wedding celebration or anything really, right? And this would be, of course, coupled with instruments, not only the accordion, the balalaika, and of course, the dancing, which there's a few different types which I'll go into. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about is what even these dances are even bloody war, There was Lamanya in where my ancestors were from, Pskov, right? They're called Skobars, and they had Lamanya, which is a dance that they performed. It's a lot like Highland culture, it'd be like mimicking the movements of a bear, right, before getting into a fist fight. Not just with one fella, but get this, two groups going at each other, called wall-on-wall fighting, stinka na stinka. And then there's this whole culture of Russian fist fighting, Ruski kulachny boy, that I'm not going to get into, but it has a lot to do with dancing. You use dancing, these bear-like movements to prepare for the fight that you'd have with a bunch of half-naked men, which, Russians obviously don't know their history since they're being so homophobic lately. My own countrymen, come on boys, a bit shameful now. But, look, there was that. There was also log fighting, balitsa, right? Different kinds of, fun things they used to do, but dancing was one of them. And in other regions, these dances wouldn't be called Lamagna. Lamagna is just the most unique example from where I'm from. I'm from Tver, but alas, it's almost near each other. Like they say, oh, Russia, isn't that beside China somewhere? Or like, you're from an Eastern European country, isn't that Russia? Whatever. And then there was dancing in other parts of Russia, which were more similar to each other than the former. And they were just being called klassiki, so dances, tap dances, whatever. And they involved these kinds of movements. Now, what makes Russian dancing unique is that there is virtually no synchronicity. What's unique to these Russian dances is the fact that there's virtually no choreography to them at all. Sure, you have to move in a circle, sometimes with a man, sometimes with a woman, who would do her own more like elastic, slow, more elegant moves, while the man would be tapping and breaking his feet off the floor, everywhere he went. They'd have to be in a circle, walking around each other, and then grab each other at the end, spin around, do a little bow. But, we're talking about the men here, for example, especially, they would have virtually no choreography. They'd be able to tap and dance as much as possible, because unlike Ukrainian and Georgian dancing, for example, Russian dancing isn't about the dance. It's about the entire event. It's about the costumes, the setting, the dancing, the ditties, the chastushki, the ditties, the environment, the celebration, whether it's a wedding or not. Everything mixed together, like I said, all came together to create this type of Russian dancing. Like I said, preeminent, right? But it's about the music that they play, the accordions, the balalaiki. And you know what? It's not as easy as it looks. I'll tell you. Ooh. And finally, a few last words is that it's a shame that things like this get lost to history. And if you're Russian watching this video, maybe, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, look this stuff up, embrace your culture, find out what region you came from, what tribe you came from, and what kind of dances your preferred region, people, wherever, perform and did, and maybe do a few of them yourself, partake in them, go to Russia, when things settle down and there's no dictatorship and authoritarianism in 1984, George Orwell, Big Brother, but you get the idea. But for now, there's a wonderful Russian-speaking documentary, if you speak Russian, that I've linked in the description below, called Dancers, or Lysuni, where a fella in Russian, I think there might be subtitles even as well, talks about this dancing, right? Goes into more details. Obviously, I only have 5 minutes. I try to do it as short as possible. Keep the crack nighty, boys. I'll be seeing you.